Okay, the first thing that we had to do was we had to ask ourselves the question of what would foster infiltration and negate runoff. Infiltration is the process of water entering the ground. Runoff is as it's running across surfaces and taking substances with it. So I looked at the plans and I assessed what materials I had available to me. But then I had to go back and reevaluate. In the erosion bottles activity, it had stated that I needed 2-liter bottles and that I needed grass seed. And I actually did go and get grass seed, but it hadn't sprouted come Thursday, and I really wanted to get this up. So I actually went out and got a flower from the hardware store instead. As you guys can see, what I did was I took tiny little water bottles and I cut off the top. And then I used a knife to poke holes in each of the 6 slots down at the bottom so that it had a big enough space that the sediment could drop through if it was taken with it. I secured the top of the bottle onto the bottom so that it was easy to catch the water as it fell so I could see the observations. And then I filled each bottle with an equal amount of soil and put a flower in one of them and nothing in the other. I put a video here just to show what happened, so I'm going to link my project at the end if you want to go back and watch it. But what I did was I put 50 milliliters of water in each of them. With the first one, you could see that it immediately, almost all of the water went straight through. And for the second one, it actually took me a good 2 minutes to get all 50 milliliters in, because you can see it's pooling up here. In the end, my final results, you can see that more of the 50 milliliters of water made it through and all the way down to the bottom than in the one with the flower. You can also see that the water is more dirty. There's more sediment in the first one rather than the second one. Further testing ideas. If I were going back, I actually knocked over the flower one a few times when I was doing this. So if I were doing it again, I'd like to have stands for the bottles, and I would like to use a graduated cylinder to measure the final results, but I don't have a graduated cylinder with me right now, so I couldn't get accurate measurements. My next challenge, I have to figure out how I'm going to water this plant, because I am forever forgetful about watering the plants. So my ideas moving forward on that is probably making some sort of porous material that allows it to go up, kind of like the Airwick fans. A couple standards that I found one Next Generation Science standard and one PA State standard to go along with this. And I looked at the STEM practices. Along with all the STEM practices, I found that they ask questions and define problems. They develop and used models. I planned and carried out an investigation. I analyzed and interpreted data. I constructed explanations for why my things did the way they did the stuff they did. And I recognized the role that technology played in the advancement of science and engineering. So I looked at technology and I said, okay, well, what's the point of actually using landscaping? And we used a science and engineering lens to see why. And finally, like I said in my last thoughts, if I were to go back again, I would use appropriate tools strategically. I would have liked to use a graduated cylinder to measure the water levels at the end, so I actually had data. Thank you, everybody.